So what's going on, man? We back on here, life on life terms. Uh, it's me, go by the name Counselor. I just know me from who I am and my real name. But I brought my man Pat on here. My guy Pat, he tends to go deep into certain stuff. He tends to go deep with, things that goes on with politics and things of that nature. So, I just wanted to chop it up and, have a regular convo with my man about everything that's going on. Man, Pat, how you holding up, brother, man? How are you?
I'm good, bro. Just sitting up here, another day in the life.
I get you. I feel you. So, man, I called you, right? Because I'm trying to figure out, man. Enlighten me, man. What is going on with all of this going on with Charlie Kirk? I got a lot of stuff that came across, looking at on the internet. I mean, I know about him, but like, I never really took the time to
How you
actually
moving
follow him,
on? Right.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I've been like on my own little journey, but like I see that Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled and like, what's going on, man? What's your take on him, man?
No, I mean, it's a moment in time. I think with this whole situation, it's like an uprising for like conservatives and people up there adamant and proponents about free speech and everything like that. And I mean, what happened to him, is a tragedy, and you know, feel for his family and supporters and everything like that. But I mean, that's just where we are, man. And political times right there. It's like people talk about going back to like the 1960s, where political assassinations and everything like that. Even though to me, people keep saying he's assassinated, use that for like political leaders and people who were, you know, had some kind of office and everything. I mean, he was a political adjacent. I mean, he was a commentator more than, or like a political analyst rather than like an actual politician. So I would say more so
Right.
his shooting death. I wouldn't really label it what happened to him being an assassination. Think
Yeah.
about that. Think about that Chris Rock line he had one of his specials talking about how they were talking about like Tupac and Biggie got assassinated. He was like, no, Martin Luther King got assassinated. JFK, RFK got assassinated. Like them two niggas got shot. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
I mean,
yeah, I
like,
mean,
so I want people to get it misconstrued. I'm not laughing at the fact over his death or anything of that nature. I'm just like, just, I'm gonna just say a little part of where I'm at with it real quick on what I'm saying. It's like it's so much attention has been brought to his assassination or whatever that, it turned into like a race war in some sense. Like, I'm lost at like, why did it turn into this big race thing? When I see some videos with him about he was against like he was like forcing or against abortion or whatever the case is. How I see one of the things that really did disturb me about like not allowing kids to have free meals or something in the school. And they like, well, where they supposed to? No, not having the government pay for kids free meals in school. But I think he was kind of geared towards the black community. But it was also something in line with that. It was like, well, where do you think that they should get the money from? Well, they go to work. Their parents should go to work. And it's like, man, you know how I feel. You know where I'm at with all of that. So it's like, elaborate to that, man, about the cancel of Kimmel and like what I just stated on like, did you see that same video that happened as well with him speaking in that
yeah, I mean, his whole stick was he was about people doing for themselves and everything, and stop relying on the government for handouts, and in particular to minorities, black folks, and all that. His whole thing was, he was very much against like affirmative action and DI things like that because he felt like people should be hired and make it in life based on the merits of what they have to offer and not on their race or their gender.
time.
And he felt like that was holding the black community back in a lot of ways because it was always looking like you know anything that you get is only because of your race, not because you actually deserved it or because you were qualified for it. And then it came to the whole thing. Well, saying that he's not racist. He's just saying
Mhm.
as a person, would you want to feel like you're always a victim and you can only get ahead in life by getting handouts instead of actually earning things. And I went back and forth with some of my conservative friends about a post I'd put up on Facebook where they argued against saying that he wasn't racist. One of my friends that I went to school with, she pointed out about how he employed a lot of inner city people and said that, Candace Owens was one of his best friends and all of that. So playing the whole black friend
Oh, the Joe
card.
Biden rule. The Joe Biden rule. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't vote for Trump, then who you gonna vote for? You racist if you
Yeah,
vote for. Oh,
yeah,
okay, I
yeah,
see.
yeah. You ain't black. Yeah, Joe, you ain't black Biden. You don't vote for me.
So,
You ain't black.
so it's like I know that like you dive into it, man. Like, what's your 100% on him, man? Like, how do you feel? Racist? Do you feel like the things that he, was going against, or how he felt was, I don't know. Like, explain to me your best on that.
I mean, my personal view on him was that, if he wasn't so much racist himself, he definitely was comfortable placating up to like a lot of racist tropes. And I mean, on the right, a lot of these conservatives, they found a real, you know, base with that. I mean, he talked
Right,
about great replacement theory, which was just about like trying to eliminate white people, with all this stuff about talking about the mixing of the races and how the country's being invaded by all these illegal immigrants and all that, and just talking about
right.
like the browning of America, where white folks feel like, they're not going to be the majority in the country anymore. And you're like, we got to
Mhm,
preserve our whiteness and everything like that. I
mhm,
mean, he definitely did play up on a lot of that with a lot of his talk. And like I said, I think he definitely had some racial animus there. If he wasn't just flat out racist himself, he definitely had no.
mhm,
He was very comfortable playing up on racist tropes and everything. And that's
mhm.
another thing I went back and forth with some of my conservative friends on Facebook. They were taking the stance that he wasn't racist and he was just
Mhm.
speaking facts and all of that. And it's funny because I was talking with Colin this last week, working preload, before he switched over to dispatch when he was still on our
Mhm,
shift. At the end of the night, me and him, we would be in the office talking politics. And,
mhm.
he definitely identifies himself as being a, conservative Republican type. I mean, he wasn't the biggest Trump fan at first, but said that he was more comfortable voting for Trump than he would be for Biden, and just
Oh
pointing out
wow.
like the double standards about the so-called liberals and the left about
Mhm.
how they really are comfortable demonizing the right and calling people Hitler and quick to call people racist and Nazis and this and that, but as soon as they point out facts about certain things that the left does, that
Right.
the double standards and all that. He says, just how there's a lot of hypocrisy, on the left leaning side of things, as opposed to, the conservatives and the right. They just call things for what they are and all of that. So I
Mhm.
mean, me and him, we always have a good time. But that's the thing about, I can respect Colin as far as, me and him can have a civil discourse with each other, have different political views without things going,
Yeah,
south.
a lot of
But we
people,
can
end up going south when that type of
Mhm.
conversation
But
occurs.
me and him, we can still have a civil dialogue with each other and still be friendly with each other. It's not like oh well, you don't see things the way I see it, so fuck you, I don't want to talk to you, kind of thing.
Right.
So that's the one thing I respect. And same thing with Sassman too. Just before he passed,
Oh man.
he was
Yeah.
definitely he was just starting to get into politics and stuff like that. Said he had never really followed politics before. And, me and him, we would have discussions about different things. And I mean, he was another guy who was, in for Trump. And I
Mhm.
remember one night we had a conversation. He was like, you know, in his heart of hearts, if he truly believed that Trump was racist, he wouldn't support him because, he didn't support racist, ideologies or people. And, I pointed out certain things about Trump in his past that would lead people to think that, he was racist, like the whole Central Park Five thing, how,
Yeah.
the five brothers, they got railroaded and, got convicted of a crime they didn't do, spent years in
I seen a
jail.
show. A show about that is popping right now on Netflix. I think it's When They See Us. It's called.
Yeah, when they see us, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ava DuVernay, she directed that.
Oh, okay.
And, uh-huh.
You seen it
And
already? You checked it out?
yeah, yeah, I seen it.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
gotta get a chance to check.
there was a Ken Burns documentary. He did a
Oh.
documentary about them, and then she went and did a series about what happened to them.
Oh.
And at the time, Trump, he took out full page ads in the New York papers calling for the death penalty and all of that, and saying
Oh my God.
that how they were just the scum of the earth for, raping and brutalizing this woman and everything like that. And then years later, the guy that actually did it, he was in jail with one of the guys. And
Oh wow.
he said he would see him around and all of that, in the jail, and, started feeling guilty, like, this dude's in jail for something that I did. And he spoke up, went to the authorities and confessed, because he was in jail for a rape. And
Oh wow.
when he confessed, he pointed out specific details of what happened in the Central Park case that nobody but the person who perpetrated it would have known.
Oh.
And then once they did the DNA uh and all of that, and his DNA matched what they found in the victim and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So they were well, most of them had already been out, but I think the
Yeah.
one dude, he was still locked up, the one he was locked up with, and he was released once they did all the DNA and all that and matched, and found out that
Wow.
this was the perpetrator. And Trump, got a lot of flack in the media about that. They said, would he apologize? Because right, this was a great injustice that these young guys, were railroaded and spent years in jail, wrongfully incarcerated for a crime they
Mm,
didn't commit. And of course, Trump being Trump, he wouldn't apologize, admit that he was wrong. All he would
mm,
say was, these guys weren't angels, and they
mm,
were up to something. And that night, they
mm.
did something, you know. And I mean, it's just, case in point, that these guys, got railroaded, and he still wouldn't admit, wouldn't apologize to him, wouldn't apologize for calling for their deaths, and
Yeah.
just digging his heels and saying, well, they might have not have done that, but he did something, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Just we got them though anyway for something that they done that they not being incriminated for, but something they did. We just gonna get for that. That's
hmm
crazy.
And so, like I said, going back with Sassman, I pointed that out to him about, saying, that's clearly some bias there. I'm sure if these were some
Yeah.
white kids, he probably wouldn't have felt the same way about them. But and then the fact that him and his father got sued by the Justice Department twice for housing discrimination.
Oh
They
wow.
wouldn't back in
Wow.
the '70s and '80s. They wouldn't rent their apartments to black people. Matter of fact, if they ever
Oh.
got a application from a black person that wanted to try to buy one of their properties, they would write C for colored to know not to
Oh wow.
to permit them to be able to buy an apartment in one of their complexes. And even a guy that worked for them at the time, he said he remembers one time that he was in a meeting with Trump and his father, and his father clearly came out and said that they weren't selling niggas.
Oh man. You for real?
Mhm.
That's
And
crazy.
Trump's nephew came out and said that he had heard him, use racial slurs quite often. Said one time he remembers that his car had gotten broken into, and Trump was just, sure it was a black person, and he was in there, fucking nigger this, fucking nigger that, broke into my car and all. So he's like, yeah, he's definitely heard him, you know, um, use racial language and stuff. Even though Trump has always maintained he's the least racist person in the world. He doesn't have a racist bone in his body. So
Oh man. So what's his connection with Charlie Kirk? Like I seen a post where they said during his something his service or viewing or something, he was out golfing or some shit like that.
yeah, I mean, Charlie Kirk really made his name in the whole digital platform with young conservatives. You know,
Ah,
with his YouTube stuff, and then his going on college tours. I mean, that's what he was on when he got killed. He was on a college tour,
yeah.
debating people. And I mean, that's another thing. A lot of his supporters say that he wasn't afraid to debate his ideas.
Hmm.
I mean, if people didn't agree with him, that's fine. He would be willing to, have a civil dialogue with, people who had different opinions and different views on him, and he'd be open to, debate with them. And so
Hmm.
that's really how he built his audience and his following through that. And so yeah, he helped Trump a lot. The young conservatives. He Trump credits him for bringing out a lot of the youth vote with him.
Oh wow.
And then it was through Charlie Kirk and his audience that he was able to build that rapport and get a lot of young millennials to come out and vote for him this last election and all. So
Oh man. So he was a big Trump supporter. Was Trump a big Charlie Kirk supporter?
I mean, he used him. I think one of the
Oh,
videos that I
okay. Like,
posted up, you know, um, they had a viewing form, well, a little visual form at in
hmm
Washington. Said
hmm
Trump was absent from it. He was on the golf course and saying that if he was so close to the guy and felt so bad about what happened to him, he could have took a few moments to back away from golfing to attend the
yeah,
memorial service for him. But I know the vice president, J.D. Vance, he was a big time supporter of his as well, and close to
yeah. I
him and
heard
all of
about
that.
that.
And yeah, they actually flew his body on Air Force Two, his the vice president's plane, and
Damn.
he helped carry his coffin off the plane and all that to Arizona. That's where he's from, Arizona, where they
Ah,
you know um dropped his body off and all that. So yeah,
damn.
he was definitely close to him and all that. But like I said, Trump, I mean, yeah, he was appreciative of him for what he could get out of him. He
hmm
but I really think that Trump, he just lacks empathy at all for anybody. I think if something would have happened to one of his kids, except probably his daughter, he probably
hmm
wouldn't care that much because he just doesn't seem to have that bone in him of empathy to really show real emotion for people when something tragic happens to him.
Well, let me ask you this. Trump. Um, you do believe that Trump is racist?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, without question, I think there's been enough evidence to lead you to believe that definitely Trump has racist tendencies. I mean, I know his supporters will talk about, oh, well, you look at all these black people that he used to hang around with. There's pictures of him with, you know, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Muhammad Ali, Rosa Parks. Like, if he was such a big time racist, would he be around him? And all these rappers, look at all the rappers that used to love Trump before he got into politics. Him and Diddy used to hang out all the time. Snoop Dogg, all of a sudden now he's the biggest racist in the world. Like, okay, where was all that energy back then when he was hanging out with him? So
Yeah, it's I say, 'cause politics is it's a different world, man. But it's like, what's your favorite saying when you say what is a politician's greatest best friend or something? What you say is like
yeah, unknown, yeah, yeah. A politician's
uninformed.
best friend, uninformed voter is a politician's best friend. Mhm.
Yeah, man. Like, where do you see what the seats is handling right now? Is it swaying more Republic or more Democrat, or
Well,
how
I
does
think,
that?
I think right now where things are, like I was telling Colin this morning, I said, your side is winning. They're winning bigly. You know, I mean, you gotta look at everything that they've been able to amass ever since Trump has come onto the scene. I mean, they were against him totally at first, but he really
Right.
tapped into something, and eventually the whole party, had to fall in line with him. And I mean, they got what they wanted with the Supreme Court. They overturned Roe, overturned a lot of regulations and everything like that.
hmm
I mean, what's going on right now with the FCC? How they pretty much got everybody scared. You don't want to sit up there and
Yeah.
go and say anything that's gonna offend them because they're
Wow.
gonna drop the hammer on you. And I mean, really, it's dictatorial shit, which is what Trump said. I mean, I tell people all the time, nobody should be really surprised about what's going on because Trump told you what he was gonna do. If
Yes.
he could
Yes.
get back, if he got back in power, this is exactly what was gonna happen. So none of this is that's going on right now should be all that surprising.
Mm. So where does things happen with the big beautiful bill? Like, I've talked to a couple people about it. They're like, well, it ain't gonna affect me, just regular people. Like, it ain't gonna affect me. That ain't got nothing to do with me, or that's on a bigger case. Like, what would you say to a person with that type of reaction?
I say really, I mean, just give it some time. I mean, you're already starting to see, just when you go to the store with the prices going up with the tariffs. That was
Hmm.
one of the things that a lot of people voted for Trump for, because they talk about when he was in office the first time, how, they had more money in their pocket, things didn't cost as much and everything like that. But I
Hmm.
mean, people still talking that right now. I mean, you go to the store, you see how much stuff is costing, prices not coming down awful much, you know. Um, with the as far as the bill goes, I mean, it's really going to affect a lot of people that live Republican supporters. A lot of
Mm.
people in red states, because that's really who they're targeting. A lot of these clinics and hospitals and stuff like that, they're going to be
Hmm.
going shutting down and all that because they're losing federal funding. They can't afford to
Yeah.
stay open, so they're going to be shut down. So where you going to go to if you got a low income? If you might not
Yeah.
have good insurance, where you going to turn to? As far as like people who get, SNAP benefits and food stamps, they've already started on that. People get a lot of cutbacks with that. People aren't being able
Hmm.
to have as much, so they can't be able to go out and provide and get food for themselves and their families the way they used to as much, because they don't cut
Mm.
back on the stamps and stuff like that. And then like elderly people with their Social Security and their Medicaid, they really
Yeah.
are gonna cut back on that, starting fuck with that. I mean, they're really not gonna see the
Damn.
real effects until next year, which I
Hmm.
think they planned it that way to sit there, because once the real ramifications of this bill kicks in, it's not going to be until around the midterm time next year. That's why you're
Ah.
seeing with the shit they doing now with this redistricting and gerrymandering and trying to, hold on to power, because Republicans know that this bill was never popular with the American people.
Ah.
And all it is and all it was nothing. I mean, you get a few little short term, gains for regular folks. I mean, that no tax on tips bullshit and all of that, but
Yeah.
that's just temporary. But all those big tax cuts for the rich and corporations, all that shit's permanent. And really,
Jeez.
that's all it was just another big tax break and tax cut for the rich. And who's
So,
paying for it? Regular folks.
so I'm glad you mentioned that. What are some of the examples? Like, I know we talked about this before, but now people could really hear from your regular conversation view, from UPS to your boy Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Like, what does that mean for tax breaks and tax cuts? Like,
No, there's more tax cuts for the rich. I mean, corporations. I mean, billion-dollar companies. Amazon, they don't pay no federal taxes.
right,
FedEx, UPS, all these big multinational corporations, they don't pay nothing in federal taxes. But yet regular folks, they get taxed to death.
right. And don't they actually get money? I believe you was explaining something to me like that. Like they make money also during tax time or something, or write-offs or something. He was
Yeah, well,
explaining to me.
write-offs and shit like that. I mean, that's something that's been going on forever. How they get over on, not paying, taxes. And I mean, like I said, that burden gets shifts on to, the regular folks. Like Warren Buffett always talks about how the fact that he's a billionaire, but yet his secretary that makes about 60,000 a year, she pays more in her taxes than he does in his. How is that right?
Damn. That's pretty much what's going on, right? The rich is getting richer, keeping their money, but they're just taking from the little person constantly.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's really what it is. I mean that's the thing with Trump. He always tried to paint himself as being some populist and talking about, he's looking out for the working man. But if you paid any kind of attention and did any kind of research, you would see that was all bullshit. That Trump has never been
Right,
for the working class people. If you just look at his business life, how many working class people he
right.
screwed over, people, contractors that worked for him, did jobs for him that he wouldn't pay, and all that. I mean, so
Oh my goodness.
that right there would have told you that he's never been in favor of working class people. But he played that rhetoric, and I mean, it goes back to like how Trump even got to where he got to in politics to begin with, because there was a vacuum and there was a hole that was left by Obama and the Democrats. I mean,
Right.
going back to like what happened in '08 with the housing crisis. I mean, when a lot of people lost their homes because of those falsy mortgages that mortgage companies knew were gonna
Yeah.
go under. They were giving
Right.
out those low end mortgages and said everybody's got a right to be a homeowner, and a lot of people jumped on that. They got them low interest rate homes and everything, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, feeling good about themselves, like I'm a homeowner and everything like that. And
Right.
then once the bottom fell out and the bubble burst, and a lot of people and the crash happened, a lot of people couldn't afford those mortgages anymore, and they lost their home.
Ah.
And what the government
Damn.
did, what the government did is they came in and bailed them out. Wall Street, they came in and bailed
Right.
them out on taxpayer dollars. All that
Right.
bullshit about too big to fail. You know, they
Right.
can't let the bank, they can't let the banks go under. So the people, the American people came in and bailed them out. The government did a bailout
Wow.
and
Uh-huh.
bailed all those CEOs out. A lot of them set up there. They got over. They gave themselves big bonuses, big buyouts,
Damn.
made all kinds of money. Nobody went to jail. Nobody was prosecuted for that shit. I mean, and this is under Democratic rule, Obama. And really,
Right.
you can go back to
Well,
Clinton.
I was going to add real quick. I was going to say something about that because people so hell bent on Obama being this great beacon of hope and black prosperity. So
Mhm.
I want you to dive down that lane too, man, and correct it for some people on.
Like you talk about black prosperity. I mean, people talk about what Obama didn't do for black folks. That by not prosecuting and going after those mortgage companies, black folks were the biggest group, the largest uh, F, dynamic of black folks that lost their houses during that mortgage crisis.
Right.
They were the biggest demographic. I couldn't think of the word. They were the biggest
Yeah.
demographic of folks that felt the punch the hardest when that housing crisis happened. And what's the one quickest way to build generational wealth is through home ownership.
Yeah.
So all those black folks that lost their homes because of those mortgages and never got that money back, that was a whole bunch of black wealth that was lost under Obama.
Damn.
And I
Now,
mean, you know,
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
no, I mean, you know, people who don't follow politics, a lot of black folks don't even know this shit. You know, they always
Yeah.
defend Obama and talk about, well, what he didn't do for black folks, and say, well, he couldn't do so but so much. And you know, it's always the Republicans, they kept him from doing things. He would have did more, but the Republicans wouldn't let him, and this and that. It's like
Right.
he made a conscious choice to sit up there and not go after them because Obama was just as corrupt as anybody or the other politician. There wasn't nothing special about Obama. You know, you look at who was on his board, who was advising him. Citigroup was one of his biggest, might have been his biggest campaign contributor in '08 when he was running.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he do? Um, as soon as when it came down to the banks and their
Uh-huh.
greed and what you know, damn near put the country into another Great Depression.
Jeez.
Instead of prosecuting those bankers, he's sitting up there listening to all his advisors from Citigroup. They're saying, "Oh no,
Right.
no, we can't punish them. We got to have a free market. America, we're a capitalist society. This and that. Yeah, they let things get out of hand. We got to put some more regulations, some more guardrails up to make sure that you know they don't this doesn't happen again." But no, what they did was
Mm-hmm.
criminal, and they should have been prosecuted
Mm-hmm.
for it. But we have a two-tier justice system in this country where the rules don't apply to the rich and the powerful. So they
Mm-hmm.
get off with a little slap on the wrist, and the American people are the ones that you know gotta pay the price for you know their greed. So
So didn't he have some sort of power with the one judge, the black guy that had the power to like kind of sway the abortion rights thing? Didn't Obama have a right to like try to put his judge in place for the Supreme Court justice
well
or
the
something? He didn't.
well no well with the abortion thing, I mean Obama ran on it. There's video of him when he was a candidate talking about there was a bill around the time he was running for president that the Democrats had was called the First Choice Act, which
Mm-hmm.
basically would have codified Roe, even though it was already law. But
Mm-hmm.
knowing that, you know, how the conservative religious right, they had just been so against abortion and been wanting to overturn it ever since it went into effect, they wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, give it when you codify something that's etched in stone, you can't overturn it.
Right.
And the bill was proposed to codify Roe at the time he was running for president, and he talked about how if he was elected day one, first day in office,
Mm-hmm.
he would codify it. Now he
Mm.
gets elected, Democrats they get not just a majority, but a super majority, which is very rare in politics. A super majority is when they control all three branches of government: the legislative,
Yeah.
the executive, and the judicial.
Yeah.
Democrat
Judicial.
Obama's first 2 years in office, Democrats had a super majority. They controlled
Mhm.
everything in D.C. They could have easily codified Roe without question. They could have done it like that. With no problems. They didn't have to have a single Republican sign on
Nope.
to it, vote for it. They couldn't have done nothing because they had such a majority in Washington that they could have gotten it done, no problem, over and done with.
Right.
Now, 100 days into his presidency, that's the big milestone in the presidency, their first 100 days. He was asked about
Mhm.
it in a press conference. Would he follow through on his promise to codify Roe? His words were, it's not that top of a political priority for him right now. The economy was
Mm.
first. He had to come up there and clean up Bush's mess and get the economy back on track. So codifying Roe wasn't a priority, even though you said when you campaigned that if you won,
Right.
you would do it day one. And we see what
Jeez.
happened.
That's crazy, man. So like, it was something that I was ready to touch on about that with Obama. Well, we do know that he got paid by the Wall Street, right, for the speech.
Yeah, his first thing post White House, the first thing he did after he got out of office, a couple of months after he got out of office, the first major thing he did was went on Wall Street and got $400,000 to give a speech about healthcare to Wall Street. And to me, all of that was his payoff for looking out for them when he was president and not locking anybody up. That was his reward, that 400,000 to,
Mm.
go to Wall Street, which he was more than glad to go collect. And I mean, now he's sitting up there, him and Michelle living at Martha's Vineyard and got their multi-million-dollar house and, up there deals with Netflix and just full on celebrities doing podcasts and everything, writing books, just living the life.
Mm. So you would say that Obama wasn't as cracked up as people viewed him to be.
No, I said
They didn't
Obama
really
wasn't shit.
dive into it much.
I'll say just straight up, he wasn't shit. He was a fraud on many ways. He was a good actor. I'll give him that. He played the part. But
Right.
really no. Obama, at the end of the day, he was just another milquetoast neoliberal politician that didn't change shit. He just went along with the program, and like I said, especially for black folks, if they really paid attention to shit that he did and didn't do for the community,
Uh,
I don't think they would hold him in such high regard. I mean, I think a lot of black folks were married to the image of Obama and just how it made them
yeah.
feel, and they just married to that and got blinders on. They don't want to really see past that and really look at the substance of his presidency and how black folks really didn't benefit greatly through his presidency. And I mean, really, the biggest thing he fed back folks for 8 years was just a bunch of feel good symbolism.
Mm. Mm.
And then the way that he continues to sit up there and down black folks and always talking down. I mean, even during his campaign when he run the first time, Jesse Jackson got
Mhm.
caught on that hot mic talking about how he went to cut his nuts off, or talking about he went to some church up there, you know like he done told Obama to stop talking down to black people and all that. And it's like, I done told him about that shit. Like, I want to cut his nuts off, man. And even the shit he pulled this last election with Kamala up there trying to shame
Yeah.
black men into, not supporting her, even though overwhelmingly black men still came out and supported her. I mean, it's up there talking about, I
Well,
want to
how
talk.
how did he do that? How did he shame her?
No, well, it's just the whole thing when he was up there talking about, like, I want to talk to the brothers. I know that some brothers might have a
Oh,
problem with a woman in power and,
oh wow.
not supporting her the way she needs to be supported. And, this is a conversation I want to have with the brothers. And, that pissed a lot of black folks off, and just like saying, like, Obama, one thing you can count on is he's always going to sit up there and try to talk down to black folks, you know.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it was like I said, that it was white women that he needed to be having that conversation with, not black men. But of course,
Right.
he would never talk to them like that. He would never feel comfortable
Right.
coming to them the way he come to black folks.
Mm. So like, um, Jimmy Kimmel, right?
Mhm.
Did he get canceled or he did get canceled?
Well, right now they saying that he's his show is indefinitely suspended. They haven't fully
Like what?
canceled yet.
Like what happened though? Like did he?
What he basically said was he talked about what Charlie Kirk and said that the shooter, is basically from the background. He's like a right wing MAGA, you know, um,
What? For real?
supporter. I mean, he comes from a conservative background. Is in Utah, which is lily white
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
Republican state. And he just like the whole stereotypical background of like a typical, white conservative, big into God and Christianity, and they love their guns
Uh,
and all of that. And so,
oh yeah. I forgot.
there's plenty of pictures of him and his family, with guns and all that at gun
The
shows. His
gun
father,
lobbyists.
yeah, his father was a police officer before he became a pastor, and so he just, comes from that background. And so basically what
Which
Jimmy Kimmel was saying was that, as much as the right wants to rally and says, that, yeah, he was some right radical leftist that did it. So you look at his
mhm,
background, he comes out of that, Republican, conservative, Christian background, you know.
mhm.
So basically what he said, and so this FCC chairman is just a, right wing tool. And so he said that he was the one that felt like, Kimmel was out of line for what he said. It was factually inaccurate.
Uh,
And so
oh
putting pressure
wow.
on ABC to, basically penalize him. And so now his show has been put on permanent hiatus for
Damn.
the future, which, I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, he was a big time Trump critic. I mean, they've already gotten rid of one late night host, and Stephen Colbert. His show's
Yeah,
going off
Stephen
the air.
Colbert. Yeah.
Yeah, his show's going off the air in
And
May next
what's the
year.
black dude name? Didn't they get rid of him too? Uh, he looked real light skinned. Always on like little
Oh,
snippets and stuff now.
Trevor Noah.
Yeah, Trevor Noah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we left the Daily Show about maybe over a year ago. John Stewart, who he replaced, comes
Oh wow.
came
Oh yeah,
back,
John Stewart. Yeah.
but he's not the permanent host. He only hosts a show um like 2 days out of the week, and then they rotate different hosts for the show. But yeah, I mean,
Wow.
really, just like basically any Trump critic, if you're critical of Trump, look out because they're gonna come after you. I mean, with Colbert,
Mm,
his show was the highest rated show in late night, and he just read up
mm-hmm.
with him for another 5 years about a year ago. I mean, I was
Uh,
talking with Colin, and he was talking about, oh, well, they canceled the show because it was hemorrhaging money, talking about the show lost like $40 million. But yet,
get out of here.
this deal that Paramount just made to merge with some company so they can become this big conglomerate, it needed FCC approval, which needed to be okayed by Trump.
Uh-huh.
So to do this big multi-billion-dollar merger, they had to get approval from Trump in order to do that. And so a
Wow.
lot of people suspect that the running the bargaining chips for Trump okaying the
Yeah.
deal was them getting rid of Colbert's show. And because
Yeah.
he had already been critical because he had already the network CBS had already bowed down to Trump and settled a lawsuit that some bullshit lawsuit that Trump brought talking about against 60 Minutes, saying that they had edited
Listen.
this Kamala Harris interview. They had edited to make her look better or some shit. It was a it was a frivolous lawsuit, and if they'd have went through with
Hmm.
it, Trump would have lost. Then he most likely would have lost the lawsuit anyway. It was frivolous. It was bullshit.
Yeah.
Suing him because he said that they always edit interviews, but his whole argument was they extra edited it to make her look good. So he sued him for $16 million. But the
Oh
network settled.
wow.
They settled the lawsuit, and before it even went to trial or anything, they settled with him for $16 million. And Colbert was critical of that, and basically saying it would call it a shakedown, saying that the network
Hmm.
was scared, and Trump basically shut them down for $16 million. And
Wow.
just a week later, this deal goes through, and they announced that they're canceling this show.
Wow.
So coincidence? I think not.
Yeah. That's a lot, Pat. And this is just like a See, this is just like a partial of like, a regular political conversation that, me and my guy Pat have a lot. So I'm definitely gonna be taking a lot of recordings and videos and conversations that we gonna have, and I'll be putting it out there more so that, we have an understanding on, how you view things and how things are viewed. I definitely appreciate you, Pat, for, hollering at me right now, having this talk with me, and, value your time and being able to sit down with me for this time. We're going to definitely have a lot more coming in the near future. So just stay tuned with it. Um,
Likewise, brother.
appreciate you.
Likewise. I appreciate you,
Appreciate
my
you,
man.
my guy Pat. Appreciate you, brother. Um,
Anytime, too.
all right, brother. I'm gonna reach back out to you another time, man, and we can pick back up on a lot of other stuff.
All right, cool.
All right, bro. Peace, bro.
All right, later.